Hello and welcome, esteemed viewers, to another episode of Faith Meets Politics. Today, we might ruffle some feathers because today we're going to dig deep into the history and ideology of Hamas, a group that has caused untold suffering both to those within the borders of Israel and to the people they claim to represent in Gaza. Hamas, officially known as the Islamic Resistance Movement, has long stood at the heart of conflict, and it's essential for everyone, and I mean everyone, who supports the Palestinian cause to understand the dark, destructive force that Hamas brings to the table. Knowing the true history of Hamas sheds light on the complex issues in the region and underscores why supporting this radical organization is dangerous. And I emphasize, it is dangerous. Okay, let's get into a little bit of history. Hamas was born in 1987 during the first Intifada, a Palestinian uprising against Israel occupation in the West Bank and Gaza. At the time, Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, a Palestinian cleric, founded Hamas as an offshoot of the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood. Yassin, along with a handful of other ideologues, established Hamas with the intention of waging a holy war, or in other words, a jihad, to eradicate Israel and replace it with an Islamic state governed by the Sharia law. In its founding charters, Hamas was clear about its purpose, stating that Israel would continue to exist until Islam obliterated it. This objective has not changed at all. Hamas sees itself as the protector of Palestinian rights, but in reality, it is more committed to maintaining its grip on power in Gaza and promoting its extremist agenda than to truly advancing peace or prosperity for the Palestinian people. It's important to note that Hamas is not just a political movement. It is a materialized terrorist organization. The US, European Union, Israel, and other nations have designated Hamas as a terrorist organization for its consistent and violent tactics, which have targeted many civilians. Now, when it comes down to the United States, Hamas has long declared its animosity, and this is no secret, okay? The group opposes everything America stands for: freedom, democracy, and human rights. It also opposes any U.S. support for Israel and has repeatedly targeted American interests in the region. Hamas's hatred for the U.S. goes beyond Israel issues. It's part of a broader world view that sees Western ideals as contrary to their radical ideology. Now, for Hamas, Israel isn't just an opponent in a territorial dispute. Hamas sees Israel as the very existence of an illegitimate and has an affront to their religious beliefs. This hatred of Israel is deeply embedded in Hamas's ideology and operational tactics. Since its founding, Hamas has launched thousands of rockets at Israel civilians, conducted suicide bombings, and created terror tunnels intended to infiltrate Israel communities. The civilian casualties from these attacks are considered a victory for Hamas. How terrible is that? As they spread fear and weaken morals. It's incredible. Now, let's go into the oppression of women in Gaza. In addition to their hatred for Israel and the West, Hamas is known for the oppressive conditions it enforces upon people in Gaza, particularly women. Now, under Hamas rule, Gaza operates under strict Islamic law, enforced by a regime that denies women basic freedom. So much for women in New York and America that feel oppressed. Try going over there. Many women are confined to their homes and their movement is highly restricted. Public life is dominated by rules that control what women can't wear, where they can go, and what jobs they can hold, if they're even allowed to work at all. Women are also subjected to heavy censorship and face punishment if they protest or speak out against these restrictions. They're punished for that. It is crucial to understand that the restrictions imposed on women are not cultural norms upheld by broader Palestinian society. They are extreme laws imposed by Hamas. Hamas' treatment of women stands as a testament to its repressive ideology, which disregards human rights and equality. In Gaza, women and girls have limited access to education, and young girls are often pressured into early marriages, removing any opportunity for them to pursue dreams or professional goals. The oppressive environment has also meant that Gaza's women are extremely limited to options for employment, education, or involvement in public life. Women who try to break away from these strict laws face severe, I'm talking about severe repercussions. Hamas often frames itself as a protector of Palestinian rights, but in reality, it uses its civilians population in Gaza as human shields, like cowards that they are. The group leaders and fighters hide behind schools, hospitals, and residential buildings, using the people of Gaza as a buffer against Israeli strikes. This tactic has led to devastating civilian casualties. And while Hamas blames Israel, the responsibility lies heavily on Hamas itself for embedding military operations in civilian areas. When Israel retaliates against attacks, Hamas propagates images of Palestinian casualties to garner international sympathy. How disgusting is that? Manipulating public opinion without revealing the truth behind these tragedies. They're nothing but cowards. Now, this exploitation of Gaza's population isn't about freedom. It's about using human lives as tools in their quest for power. Hamas's brutal tactics and disregard for human life are traits of a terrorist organization, not a government that genuinely wants peace or prosperity for its people. It stands for nothing for that, okay? Now, for those who support Palestine, understanding the reality of Hamas is critical. The plight of the Palestinian people is real, and they have genuine grievances that need to be addressed. But supporting Hamas is not the same as supporting the rights of our welfare of Palestinians. When we look at the actions of Hamas, we see a pattern of terrorism, oppression, and blatant disregard for life and freedom. The leaders of Hamas have amassed wealth and power while Gaza's people live in poverty, lacking basic needs like clean water, electricity, and healthcare. By supporting Hamas, anyone who protests for Palestine is endorsing an organization that has worsened the suffering of Palestinians and stripped away their basic human rights. This is disgusting, okay? Hamas has done nothing to build schools, hospitals, or economic opportunities. Instead, it has built an arsenal of weapons. Its leadership has shown that they are willing to spend billions on rockets and tunnels, while the people of Gaza struggle to survive, and they are in devastated conditions. While the international community sends aid to Gaza, much of it I'm going to tell you right now, much of it is not given to the people, fueling its military agenda rather than improving living conditions for civilians. This reality highlights the hypocrisy of Hamas's claims to represent the interest of its people. They do not care about the Palestinian people. All right? Now, the story of Hamas is a tragic tale of a group that began as a resistant movement and transformed into a terrorist organization committed to violence, hatred, and oppression. Hamas has held Gaza under a brutal dictatorship, subjected women to horrific restrictions, and has perpetuated a cycle of violence that has harmed Israel and Palestinians alike. For anyone who seeks to stand with the Palestinian people, it's essential to know that Hamas is not an ally to peace or justice. It is a threat to both Israelis and Palestinians, and the world must recognize the evil embedded in its core, because it's pure evil. Okay, it's time for people to look beyond the slogans and see the reality. Supporting Palestine should never mean supporting Hamas. There's a difference there. True justice for Palestinians can only come when organizations like Hamas no longer wield power over them. It's important for us to remember that there can be no peace in Gaza, no security for Israel, and no future for the Palestinian people as long as Hamas remains in control. This is why we need to eradicate them. Understanding the true nature of Hamas allows us to advocate for real solutions. Solutions that seek peace, safety, and dignity for all people in the region. So, next time someone waves the flag or protests in support of Palestine, ask them if they truly understand who they're supporting. That's a good question. Supporting the Palestinian cause should mean supporting a future where all people, regardless of faith or nationality, can live in peace and freedom. And as long as Hamas stands, that future remains out of reach. Okay? It remains out of reach. Now, I want to thank you for watching. And remember, knowledge is power. Knowing the truth about groups like Hamas helps us to take a stand for real peace and justice. Let's make sure that when we talk about freedom for Palestinians, we're standing on the right side of history. God bless.